Welcome to the Amnayalife Podcast. Today we will talk about the fear of speaking up in English during team meetings, why so many Taiwanese professionals freeze, stay silent, or doubt themselves, even when they have valuable ideas. I'm your host, Jack Smith, and I'm here with Wu Yishan, who has an incredible story to share about her English learning journey. Yishan, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Jack. I'm glad to be here. It's honestly taken me years to feel brave enough to talk about this. I really hope my experience will help others who struggle with the same fears.
Here's the question. Why is it that in meetings, so many smart, capable people just sit silent when the conversation switches to English? You might have the answer, the creative idea, or the right question yet. When it's your turn, your heart races, your mouth goes dry, and you decide to say nothing at all. Have you ever left a meeting thinking, why didn't I speak up? But then vow to do better next time, only to freeze again when it happens?
That's my story. I can write in English, I can read, but when it comes to a real meeting with people from the US, Europe, Japan, my voice would just disappear. My mind would go blank, as if all my English vanished. I always worried people would judge my grammar or think my ideas weren't good enough.
What's interesting about this is, it's rarely about actual language ability. I see this pattern all the time in Taiwan. People are fluent enough on paper. But when it's their time to talk, anxiety or perfectionism shuts them down. It's a mindset, not a skill problem.
Exactly. I always prepared what I wanted to say, but the moment someone looked at me or called my name, I just lost the courage, and then I felt so small, like I didn't belong in that group.
Right, and here's why that matters. If you're silent in meetings, your ideas aren't heard, your talents aren't seen, and eventually, you start to believe you're not international enough. That creates a cycle: fear, silence, and regret over and over.
Yes, the worst part is nobody ever notices how hard you're working on your English after hours. They just see silence in the room. It's so frustrating and lonely.
So today, let's dig into this pattern, where it starts, why it sticks, and most importantly, how you can break free. Because if you've ever felt like you disappeared in meetings, you're definitely not alone, and you can absolutely change this. Before we dive deeper into Yishan's story, I want to let you know if you're struggling with the same challenges we're talking about today, there's a free class I've created that breaks down the real reasons blocking your English fluency. You can find the link in the episode description. It's going to show you exactly how to remove these blocks. Okay, Yishan, let's get into your story.
Sounds good, Jack. Let me set the scene. This was about 3 years ago when I was a product manager at a tech company in Nehu. Our team had regular meetings with the partners from the US and Europe. Every Thursday, we'd have a video call to discuss product updates. I always joined early, notebook ready, because I wanted to prove I could contribute.
Right. And it's common for Taiwanese professionals to over-prepare writing bullet points, scripting possible answers, thinking preparation will solve the fear. But in real time, things rarely go as you expect.
Exactly. My boss always encouraged me privately, saying, Yishan, share your insights, your ideas are strong. But when the meeting started, I'd watch my international colleagues just jump in, interrupt, joke, and share freely. I kept waiting for the right moment to speak, but it was like jumping into a moving train.
That's so important. The fast-paced, messy style of English meetings can feel chaotic compared to the Taiwanese wait-your-turn culture. If you wait too long, the topic changes and your chance vanishes.
Yes, there were so many times I rehearsed sentences in my head, but couldn't find a gap to speak. Then, after meetings, my boss would ask, why didn't you speak up? I wanted to cry because I always had answers, but couldn't get them out.
The real pain isn't just missing an opportunity. It's the frustration of feeling invisible, even to yourself. And the more meetings you sit through in silence, the harder it gets to break the cycle.
I started to feel like an outsider in my own team. Sometimes I convinced myself my English wasn't good enough. Other times, I worried my accent would make people laugh. Every week, the anticipation grew worse. I'd sweat, my voice would shake, and I'd even hope for technical glitches to avoid talking.
That inside panic is something I see constantly. It's often driven by a fear of losing face, of exposing yourself as less than perfect. Taiwan's education culture trains you to avoid mistakes, so speaking up, especially imperfectly, feels dangerous.
For me, the shame was real. After one call where I froze, I avoided chatting with foreign teammates for days. I felt like an imposter, like maybe I was just pretending to be a global employee.
Here's what I notice about that imposter feeling. Every time you silence yourself to avoid mistakes, you also block your growth and connection. The real lesson is that silence, not mistakes, is what keeps you stuck.
That's what I realized after a feedback session with my boss. He said, "Your ideas are valuable, but if you stay silent, nobody will see your strengths. Take the risk to speak, even if it's not perfect." That comment shook me. I asked myself, what do I lose by staying quiet? What could I gain by pushing myself just a little more?
That's a critical shift, moving the focus from how do I avoid embarrassment to what do I miss out on if I say nothing? Suddenly, it's about visibility, growth, and being authentic, not perfection.
The next meeting, I challenged myself to say at least one thing, no matter how small. When my chance came, my heart pounded, but I jumped in. "I agree, and I think we could try." My voice was shaky, but I finished my sentence. People listened, and nobody criticized my grammar.
That's a breakthrough moment. When you realize the world doesn't end if your English isn't perfect, confidence starts to build. It's the action, not the flawless sentence, that matters.
That first step made the next one easier. Every meeting, I forced myself to contribute one small comment or question. Sometimes I stumbled, but I always learned something new about communicating, like how to cut in politely or how to summarize quickly.
What I hear underneath your story is progress by exposure. The more you risk showing up, the more you discover you belong in English and in your team.
It sounds simple, but celebrating even a tiny win truly helped me. Each time I spoke up, I wrote it down in my notebook. Over months, this became proof to myself that I was growing.
Let's unpack why this pattern is so common. When I look at your story, what was really going on was a combination of language anxiety, perfectionism, and cultural differences about communication styles.
I agree. Well, I realized I always tried to wait for the perfect sentence before speaking, but in English meetings, people just jump in, even with rough ideas.
This connects to something I see a lot. In Taiwanese workplaces, speaking up is often seen as risky or disrespectful unless you're 100% sure. But Western contexts reward initiative and visible contributions, mistakes and all.
That's true. I noticed my Western coworkers didn't mind making mistakes. They valued sharing opinions and building on each other's points. That's a big mindset difference.
The shift you made is actually about giving yourself permission to be seen as a learner, not an expert. This is where real English growth happens, not from avoiding mistakes, but from engaging fully.
My breakthrough was realizing that progress comes from being present, not from being perfect. For example, even if I said something basic like, "Can I add a point?" it still changed my participation.
And what makes that shift so hard is, most of us are conditioned to link our value to flawless performance, not visible effort or willingness to try.
It was uncomfortable at first. My hands would sweat every time, but after a few times, it felt more normal. I started to enjoy the meetings instead of dreading them.
I hear a fundamental change in how you see yourself in international spaces, not a passive bystander, but an active participant.
Exactly. Now, I see myself as someone who takes action, even in uncertainty. That gives me more ownership over my own development.
This fear, I see it in so many Taiwanese learners. The silence in meetings is usually not a language gap, but a mindset one about visibility, belonging, and courage.
I have so much empathy for anyone who feels that meeting anxiety. I promise you're not alone, and the first step is always the hardest, but also the most liberating.
The reason it's hard to overcome is because we're taught to equate mistakes with shame instead of learning. But it's your action that creates opportunity.
My advice to listeners is start with one small comment every meeting. Track your wins. Progress is built on tiny actions, not sudden perfection.
Can you share with listeners 3 specific actionable tips for breaking out of meeting silence?
Sure. The first thing that helped me was was preparing meeting phrases I could use naturally, like, I'd like to add, or can I ask a question? Practicing these helped lower my fear in the moment.
That's powerful. Preloading those phrases acts like a safety net. It gives your brain something familiar to grab onto under stress.
Exactly. And I noticed I could jump in faster when I started with those templates. It made English feel more automatic, less risky.
What you're describing is building muscle memory for meetings. The more tools you have ready, the easier it is to participate.
Second, I set a tiny goal for each meeting, just one short comment, not a perfect answer. It could be a suggestion or a question. This made the challenge feel manageable, not overwhelming.
That's smart because shrinking the goal reduces pressure. Small wins build confidence quickly and interrupt the avoidance cycle.
And what I noticed was, once I spoke, my anxiety actually went down for the rest of the call. One comment broke the ice.
What you're describing as overcoming the initial barrier action is the best confidence builder, not waiting for the right moment.
Third, after each meeting, I wrote down 2 things: what I managed to say and one thing I'd try next time. Over time, I could literally see my own progress.
That's a crucial reflection practice. Progress becomes visible, and you get proof that your efforts matter even if it still feels slow sometimes.
Yes, and seeing that list of small wins reminded me not to give up when a meeting felt rough.
Ishan, your transformation is really inspiring. You turned silent frustration into courageous, visible participation.
Thank you, Jack. I want everyone to know, if you speak up even once, like, you're already winning against fear, or
What's possible when you let go of perfection and just show up is bigger than any single mistake you might make.
I believe that. Like, if you keep showing up, your English and your confidence will both grow far beyond what you imagine.
That's the key insight. It's progress, not perfection, that creates the real international you.
So true. Like celebrate each effort, and soon you'll realize you're already more global than you think.
Ishan, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your story with us. I know our listeners are going to find so much value in what you've shared.
Thank you for having me, Jack. I hope my experience helps someone out there.
I'm sure it will. And to everyone listening, if you want to discover the real reasons that are blocking you from speaking English fluently, click the link in this episode to watch a free class that will show you how to remove these blocks.